Hey, welcome or welcome back to 4F Beauty. When will I be YouTube famous? I don't know. But continuing on with the saga of the Jaclyn Morphe Vault, I have used another one of the palettes today to produce this look. So, if you want to see exactly how much work it took to get this eye look looking fabulous, you are going to have to watch the tutorial. And once you've watched my tutorial, why don't you pop over to one of the girls in the beauty YouTuber growth group and see what they've that works out well, doesn't it? The girls in the beauty YouTuber growth group and see what their latest films are. There we go. English. That's always best to use your native tongue, really, isn't it? Yep, okay. I need to go get more coffee. You need to watch this tutorial. Hey, hi, welcome back for the intro. Okay, so this is the second of the Jaclyn Morphe Vault films, and this time I am going in with Bling Boss, which is the purpley palette that looks like this. Now, as with the Dark Magic palette, I have used this quite a few times already, so I am going to produce for you my favourite look out of all the ones that I've produced. In terms of the shimmers in this palette, Bling Bling, Glitz and Glam and Ballsy. To be honest, Glitz and Glam and Ballsy, you could do just with having one. You don't really need them both. That's Bling Bling. Very nice. That's Glitz and Glam, as you can see, definitely a different colour. And that's Ballsy. Now, although this is definitely more mauve and this is more brown, to be honest, given the palette, I really don't think we need this one. I really think that she could have got rid of Glitz and Glam and put another, either another matte purple, something that would fall in between Hush Hush and Rockstar maybe, or maybe a deeper, like, I mean, Gem really is the only deep purple metallic. It'd be nice if there was maybe another proper, really, really deep purple metallic in here instead of this Glitz and Glam, because this is clearly a purple overtoned palette, so why do you want a brown shimmer in it? That's the shade that really doesn't make any sense to me at all. But let's get zoomed in and let's start putting some of this colour onto my eyes. How's your day been? I hope it's been a good one so far. It's a bit close, but you can see nice lot of detail then. Let's just tilt you back up a little bit. There we go. Right. Use your spleel. Regulars will be able to talk this with me, no doubt. Talk this with me. I am so sorry for my lack of a grammatical whatever at that point. Right. Now, when I look straight ahead, you can see all of my mobile lid, which means that I don't have a hooded eye. If you don't see this, you either got a half or a full hooded lid, or what's termed an Asian eye or a mono eye. You can still follow my tutorial. All you need to do, facing forward with your eyes open, get a flat brush similar to this We'll be using this later to do under the bottom lashes, but it's also really good for just sketching out where you would need your crease to fall. Now obviously that will reduce the space you have between your crease and your brow. So you can either try raising your brows, which you'd be surprised how much extra space that does give you. Alternatively, you need to look at the brushes you're going to be using. Now, I'm going to be using these two on my upper lid. This is a really fluffy brush. This is stained, by the way. I have cleaned this so many times. This is actually a Morphe brush from their I Slay, EYE Slay set, and I've washed this so many times and I think I've only lost like 2 hairs from it, so really impressed with that. This is a Tarte one, came with a palette that I bought ages ago, but you can see it's much narrower at the top. It's still loosely packed for blending, but it's much narrower at the top. So I'm going to start with this one to really blow the colour out. Then I'm going to move down to this one for more detailed work. Now, if you have got a reduced space, either because you've got very low brows or you've had to move your crease up, you need to start with a more tapered brush. You are going to probably find it will take you longer to blend it out because it's slightly more tapered, but start with this brush, and then when I move down to this brush, you need to move to something like this. Now I know it looks like a pencil brush, but it's not. Pencil brushes are quite densely packed. This is still loosely packed, as you can see, but it's tapered and comes up to a point. This is a tapered crease brush from Coastal Scents, and you'll probably find that those two brushes will be absolutely perfect for you. Right. My face has been washed, moisturised and primed and SPF'd. I used my usual antiperspirant facial primer over everything. I've got a separate video on that if I remember. I'll link it in the description box. Haven't done my brows yet, so I can actually scratch them like this with the other end of the brush. Oh, that's so nice. All I've got on my brow is I've got concealer, which I've then set with Coty Airspun. Now, as you know, if there's a colour in the palette, a matte that is close to my skin tone or a shade or two lighter, I will run that over the whole of the lid as well, just because colours from the same palette blend well on themselves. But for me, there is no shade that will do that, so I'm going to go straight in with the shade Hush Hush. Hush, hush, thought I heard you calling my name now, hush. Sorry, I'm having a bit of a 90s moment now, forgive me. You just heard me tap off over into my colour switch. I'll be using this for changing the colours on the brush. If you don't have one of those, I mean this is not a Veramona one, this is a manga one, which I picked up really cheap from eBay, I think about £3-4. If you haven't got one of those, you can just use a towel or a flannel or a face cloth or a washcloth or whatever you want to call them, just to clean the colour off. So we're going to start off with our usual windscreen wiper movement from the outside edge to the inside. I'm going to be following the shape of my socket. If you've had to move your crease up, just follow the line that you've laid down. Alright, so initially we're just going to waggle that backwards and forwards on the top lid, just to lay the colour down. Going back and just doing little wiggles if we need to, just to make sure we've got the colour down all the way across. It doesn't matter that it's patchy because we haven't finished blending yet. Pick up some more Hush Hush, tap off. And now we're going to do a little circular movement. So the reason we do this is because I'm 44, I've lost about 10-11 stone over the last few years, so the skin on my eyelids moves. Now the skin this side, I've actually got permanent creasing here, which was caused by the opticians pulling my eye around when I was like 5 and 6. So for me, this circular movement doesn't work on this eye. I have to actually stretch the lid out. Do not do that if the circular movements will work for you, because otherwise you will end up with this permanent creasing and it will just continue to spread across your eye. Trust me on that one. So, starting from the outside edge again, little tiny circular movements. I'm holding the brush right at the very end, so I'm putting as little pressure on my eye as possible. And when I get to the middle, I lift up without taking my brush off my skin, reverse the direction, and come back out again. And because I've got deep set eyes, I've actually got room to go up a third time, going back to the original direction, and back across to the middle. Now, I like to leave 4 or 5 mils or about a brush width below the lowest part of my brow, just so that when I put the brow highlight on, it's really noticeable. This is especially important if, long-term viewers will know I have done all shimmer looks, and obviously if you're going to put a brow highlight on, for it to be able to show up, it needs to be markedly different from what's here. And if you've used shimmer up to here, you're just going to lose the brow highlight. So it's always good to leave just a strip of bare skin there, so to speak. Now, once you're happy with the colour intensity, I'm just going to deepen up this corner here, because where I've got creasing across this corner, I do find that the colour does tend to skip a bit just on the top here. So I'm just going to deepen that shade up in that corner, just a fraction, as you can see, just so that it's even. Now, what I'm going to do now, to make sure this is absolutely blended, we're going back to windscreen wiper, but we're doing very narrow windscreen wipers, and we're going to overlap them in 3 or 4 strips across your eye, depending on how wide your eye is and how wide your brush is. So starting at the top, going up and down, we're just doing little tiny windscreen wipers, just to make sure it's absolutely blended. And then we're going to move across a little bit and do the same thing in the middle, up and down, up and down, up and down, and then across to the outside edge, and again little windscreen wipers up and down. And you can see, I know I've got a little bit of a bare patch here, but I am struggling at the moment to get pigment to lay down on that particular patch of my eye. So all I do, I'm not worried at the moment because I'm going to put 2 more colours on top of it. So normally I would just leave this and move on. If this was the only colour I was using, however, I would pick up some pigment on the brush and I would just dab it into place. And rather than blend, I would just keep pat, 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 until I'd built the colour up and there was no more creasing there. Okay? Now, the reason my films are as long as they are is because I don't speed my blending up and I do the other eye on camera. Because when I was learning, it used to wind me up something chronic if they speeded it up, because I have to keep pausing it. I don't know about you, but I usually watch stuff like this on my phone. So my screen lock would come on and it'd be an absolute nightmare. Now, as you can see, I've got real tiger striping or barcoding here because of these permanent creases. Now, the circular movement, because it moves the skin around, will normally, in most cases, as you can see with this eye, it will cover fine. With this eye, unfortunately, it doesn't, so I do have to very gently hold the lid taut and just blend that inner corner. The sun keeps coming in and out of the clouds, so I do apologise if my white balance is going up and down, don't you, today? But you can see I have to just do that, unfortunately, with that eye. Right, pick up some more pigment, and it's time for the twirly whirlies again. Now, the reason I'm closing this eye is because this is the eye that I'm blind in, hence why it was pulled around a lot when I was a kid. So obviously this eye is much easier to show you the technique because I can actually close the eye, which obviously I can't do with the other eye because then there wouldn't be a huge amount of makeup happening because I wouldn't be able to see what the heck I was doing. So you can see I just did exactly the same thing, and you can see how quick it is when I'm not talking you through it. It doesn't take long at all. But obviously I like to talk you through the first eye and then just show you on the second eye the repeat procedure. This colour really reminds me of Born Fresco from Modern Renaissance, and I love this sort of dusky mauve colour. I think it makes a lovely transition. I mean, I'm sort of neutral verging on cool skin tone, and this for me is by far the most flattering transition shade. Right, so I'm going to take that colour off my brush, and still using the wide brush, I'm going to go into, let's go into Rockstar. Now you can see these do kick up. Hello camera, come on, focus, do your job. Do your job. Thank you. You can see it does actually kick up quite a bit in pan. Now that doesn't bother me as much because you can at least then get pigment on your brush. I do find some of these do have quite a bit of fallout though, which is why I have not done my base first. If you're the kind of person that has to do their base first, then I would advise putting loose powder here to catch any fallout. So, we've put Rockstar on our brush, which is a song that I sing with my brother from another mother at karaoke's, and we're going to start off the same way, running it through the crease backwards and forwards. Taking a little bit more attention this time because obviously the deeper the pigment, the more difficult it is to get it to blend because there's simply more pigment molecules in it. Again, you can see I'm struggling here, but there is going to be a darker colour going on, so I'm not overly fussed. And now what I'm doing, I'm just going back in and I've literally just picked up that loose powder from the top on the brush again and tapping off. So don't blow the excess away unless you're ready to close the palette up, because you can always pick up the kick up. Rhyming couplets. I am not Dr. Seuss, I promise. I do not like green eggs and ham. Right, this time when I'm doing the circular movements. Now last time we went across, then we lifted up and came back. This time the bristles are remaining in contact with that line at all times. We're still going to reverse the direction when we come back, but we're going to come back along the line again rather than moving up the eye. Alright, let me just show you what I mean. So we're doing little circular movements across to the middle. We're reversing the direction, but we're not lifting it up the eye. Coming back along that crease line that we've laid down. And you can see that's already starting to blend out that difficult corner. So we're just going to do a few passes with our circles just to make sure we're getting a good blend out, because I don't want to lose that first colour. You know, I really like that Hush Hush, so I still want to be able to see it above this shade, but I don't want it to suddenly be, there's the edge of this shade and now we're starting on that one. So once I'm happy with the depth of colour, which I am with this one, I'm just going to clean the brush off, and then with a clean brush, see, no pigment coming off at all, I'm just going to very, very gently do tiny windscreen wipers just where the edge of Rockstar meets Hush Hush, just to really, really soften. I'm putting barely any pressure on at all, holding the brush right at the end as I have done all the way through. but I'm really barely putting any pressure on. And do little tiny circles along the edge as well, just to really soften where those two colours meet. Okay, so you can see now it really does fade nicely into the lighter colour. Sorry folks, I need to have a drink, my throat's very dry today. Must be the changing weather. You can really see the tiger striping when I put this darker colour on with this eye. Look at that. I mean, if I wanted a tiger stripe or a barcode effect, boom, sorted. But that's not the look we are going for today, thank you very much. So I'm just going to give that a bit of a buff. Again, I am going over with a darker colour later, so I'm not overly fussed about getting this particularly perfect at the moment. I think that's going to be good enough for the minute. Pick up the kick up and commence the twirly whirlies. So again, same thing on this eye. Little tiny circles, still reversing, and you can see if I slow down, can you see how it's moving the skin on my eyelid around? But it's doing it very, very gently, so it's not actually stretching the skin, it's just very gently moving it just to make sure that every part of our eyelid gets coated in this gorgeous sort of burgundy, mulberry, blackcurranty colour. So I'm just going to check that I've got the same height both sides with the shading, which I have. And I've got, oh, I shut that eye, that was ridiculous, wasn't it? Yeah, got about the same depth of colour. So, again, clean it off my brush so that I have got clean brush, and then very, very gently just buff along, as opposed to buffalo, just buff along that edge, mixing of windscreen wipers and circles, just to really soften and blow out the edge of this deeper colour. Finally got the clock working again, which is good. I do like to hear a nice ticking clock. I find it very restful. I don't know about you. I know Nikki Raven has got a clock in her room that she does her tutorials in. I just love just hearing that gentle ticking in the background. Okay? Right. Now, I am now going to move down to the more tapered brush. If you started with this one, now is the time to move down to the tapered crease brush. And I'm going to go into Berry Treasure, which, if my camera will do its job and focus, you can see has, although it initially looks, straight on it looks like it's a brown, but you can see it's actually got a duochrome effect, and it has some glitter in it. We're going to have fun with this shade, folks. So initially, I'm literally just tapping it in the pan, and I'm just going to stamp this deeper colour just on the outer third of the eyelid, and then very, very gently give that a bit of a buff. If you're going to get a fallout, folks, now will be the time. And dipping back into a Berry Treasure, tapping off very well, I'm very gently going to blend this through the crease in exactly the same way we did with the two previous colours, but as you can see, I'm doing much smaller strokes. Alright, to get that pigment laid down. Now, I'm actually going to clean the pigment off my brush. Normally with the other two colours we would now be picking up more colour. Don't want to do that with this one. I just want to blend this shade out. Now with the previous shade, with Rockstar, the bottom of the bristles were in contact with the line all the way across. If we do that again, we're going to lose Rockstar that we've taken all that time to patiently blend. So what we're doing this time is we are just blending the line itself. You can see, I hope, that the line is just fractionally narrower than the head of this brush. And we only want it to be as wide as the head of this brush. So, really teeny, tiny, soft circles in first one direction and then the other, coming back across the eye, and a little bit of a blend at the end there. Now we're always trying to blend a little bit upwards here so that it gives the illusion of the eye coming up, because if we sweep it with the eye coming down, it gives us very sad, very tired looking expression. Whereas if you try and blend up on the corners, it has the opposite effect. It lifts the eye, gives us a happier expression. And if you do have downturned eyes, it can completely change how your eyes appear just by using shadows. You don't need to go for expensive surgery if you can fake it with a shadow. So you can see, really very, very, very gentle blending gives us our three separate colours, which is what I wanted. So now it's time to repeat this on the other eye. Now this side's a bit easier because I can actually close it, as we discussed with the previous shade. So it's so much easier to gently pat this colour on when your eye is shut, and you can see I'm already just flicking upwards very gently, not too high, just very gently with the edge of the brush. And now the end is now. Well, that's not really. And now I'm going to do the very small windscreen wipers into the corner, through the crease, or wherever your crease needs to be, just to set the colour down. Right, so take the colour off of the brush. See, and you can see even there I've got barcoding. So very, very, I might need to pick up a wee bit more pigment actually just for this corner. Just tiny, tiny, tiny little circles, just to give it a good blend, because I still want to see that rock star above it. Okay, and now tiny wee little circles all the way across and all the way back again, and again drawing a little smiley mouth as we're blending that corner. Really gentle blending. You can see it's actually hardly moving the skin on the eye at all, and that's what we want. We still want the skin to move, because otherwise we're not going to be able to get that blend right. But we don't want to drag it too high up our eyes. So, clean that brush off, and I've just got a cotton pad here with some micellar water on, just to tidy up the inner corner, because obviously I'm going to be putting a lighter shade there later. Later. Okay. Now, you're now going to need a flat packing style brush. Now, this one is from So Eco. I would tell you what it's called, but I've had it so often the name's washed off, so I can't. So, I am going to go in with Gem, because I know you all want to see how that's going to appear on the eye. Now, all of these shimmers are very, very soft. As you can see, they kick up an awful lot. And I've found the best way to apply them is to apply them wet. Some shimmers you can apply dry or wet. If you apply these dry, they are not going to stay on your eyes at all. So, I've packed the pigment on. I'm now going to use, this is the Obsession Pigment Boosting Spray. You can use any spray. You can use a moisturising spray like MAC Fix Plus or Mario Badescu. You can use a priming spray. You can use a setting spray. You can even use clean water. These just, they almost need to be activated with some kind of liquid to get them to stick to your eye. So, pigment is packed on and I've now sprayed it. So we're going to very gently apply this to the lid, the 2/3 of the lid that so far hasn't had any colour put on it. Now, because I have deep set eyes, some of this colour will transfer up throughout the day, but it will only really be noticeable when I blink or when I close my eyes, because the majority of the time it's tucked back in the crease. You could put glitter glue down if you wanted to give this some longevity, but to be honest, it doesn't really make that much of a difference. It really doesn't. Now, I never go into a palette with a wet brush, so you can see this. I mean, there's still pigment on there, so clean the pigment off both sides in case the back of the brush got wet as well, and then dry the brush on my hand. Because if you go, some palettes you can go in with a wet brush and it's absolutely fine. Other palettes, if you go in with a wet brush, you're going to seal the pan, where the colour basically gets that shiny film over the top, and you then cannot get any more colour off next time you use it. So I personally prefer to not go into the pan with a wet brush. Pigment is packed on again, and we're going to spray. And again with this eye, just start packing that pigment on. I do need to stretch the eye out again, unfortunately. But you can see that is actually opaque enough to go over the deeper matte shade that we put down. So these shimmers and satins do actually have opacity in them. They're not ridiculously sheer, because you could see that was just literally one coat, one layer, going in with a wet brush. Right, I now need to go and put some foundation and whatnot on. I will be back uber shortly and finish off the look. Please don't go anywhere. Right, I'm back. Now, the brush that I showed you earlier for marking out your crease, I'm now going to use this. This is another one from that Morphe I Slay set that I got last year with the old handles. And I'm going to go into Gem, which is the purple that we've got across the lid. And I'm going to pick that up just on the very tips of the bristles. And very carefully, and I mean very carefully because now I've got my foundation on, I don't want any fallout. Smudge this along. Just wiggle it along the bottom lash line. Fading the end out there. Just before it gets to the highlight, because when we blend this, we'll blend it into the highlight. But at the moment, we don't want it to quite meet the highlight. So near, and yet so far. I always flinch doing this eye where I'm blind because obviously I can't tell how close the brush is. I have to rely on muscle memory and the viewfinder or the mirror. And regular viewers will know me poking myself in the eye. Quite a common occurrence. Okay, so once we've smudged that gem across, this is actually the brush that came with the Tarte Swamp Queen palette that they did with Graveyard Girl. So you can see exactly the same style, so flat across the top, but considerably thicker. And this is the brush that I'm going to use for smudging out the lower lash line. You don't have to use this one. You could go in with a slightly more flat topped blending brush. That's a Coastal Scents one, by the way. You could go in with the tapered blending brush, again Coastal Scents. You could even to a certain extent go in with a pencil brush, but remember pencil brushes don't blend very easily. So that might be an alternative to actually when you're laying gem down rather than blending out. Now, to blend out, I am going to go into Hush Hush again, which is the transition shade that we laid down to start off with. And I'm just going to pick that up on the tip of the bristles. Camera's deciding it's only going to focus on me, which is entirely understandable. And very gently, just smudge that all the way along, taking it right up to where the inner corner highlight is. As you can see, I've put highlight on the brow bone, inner corner, and then all the other places on my face that I always put highlights. So down my nose, my cupid's bow, my chin, and my cheekbones. I used the Ofra Nikki Tutorials Cloud 9 highlight today because that has got a pink to peach shift on a white base, which I thought would go really nicely with these purpley mauves that we've done today. I was going to go for one that got a blue shift to it to pull out the purple, but because we started off with that really, really nice warm toned mauve and then went in again with a warm toned red, I wanted a nice warm toned highlight to go with it. Right, I am going to disappear off camera and do my mascara and figure out what I'm actually going to do with my hair today, and I'll be right back. Right, I'm back. Lippy is Jeffrey Ho from his holiday or Christmas collection 2018. Reminds me very much of Androgyny, but I think Androgyny is slightly cooler. This is a bit warmer with more of a pinky undertone as opposed to Androgyny, which has got very much a bluey mauve or mauve undertone. So, this is the final look. I decided against eyeliner today because my eyes have been watering horrendously again. So, what are my final thoughts on Bling Boss? The magnet works. As I said earlier, I really don't think there's a need for this particular shimmer. It's a brown toned shimmer which just feels completely out of balance to all the other colours in here. I would much rather this had been a really deep, sort of bluey, purpley sort of this sort of shade from this Essence palette, this kind of really deep purple here. I'd much rather have had that in either a shimmer or a matte form than this, because to be honest, I'm probably never going to use this with this palette. I might pick it up and use it with either Ring the Alarm or Armed and Gorgeous, but for this palette I just don't think that particular shade works. As with the other palette that I've filmed with so far, which was the Dark Magic, the darker shades do need some blending. You do need to have patience with them, but as you can see, if you use a light hand and you're prepared to do the blending, then you can end up with a really quite nice, quite striking eyeshadow look. You could use this for daytime. You could just bung Bling Boss, Hush Hush all over for daytime, and then for an evening you could deepen up with Sparks or Rockstar or Mystic or Berry Treasure, and then bung either Ballsy, Bling Bling or Gem on the eyes. So this is actually a very wearable palette, even though I think a lot of people are probably going to be frightened by the number of purples in there and the lack of browns. But, you know, purples are the most difficult colours to create. So, bearing that in mind, I actually think they've done quite a good job with this palette. For the price, you know, 15 quid if you buy it on its own, or what does it work out to if you buy it? No, 15 quid if you buy it as part of the set, isn't it? Oh, I don't know. Anyway, for its price, it's an okay palette. It reminds me very much of the other standard Morphe palette qualities. If you're expecting it to be creamy dreamy like the big white Jaclyn £35 palette, you're going to be disappointed. If you go into this expecting a reasonable quality shadow that takes a little bit of extra blending on the deeper colours, then you're going to be happy enough with this. They don't muddy together that much that I've seen. There's a couple of shades that if you combine them they can go a bit muddy, but again, that's just trial and error. That's just working out what colours are going to work with each other. I've not used glitter glue on the shimmers, and I found that they last fine. Obviously there is some fading through the day, as you would expect, but it's not horrendous. But by the end of the day you still see the three shades that are on the eye. Do the shimmers have less intensity by the end of the day? Yes, but then that's true of most shimmers. If you're expecting wonderful creamy dreamy shadows, this is not the palette for you. If you like the colour scheme, if it calls to you and you're prepared to do that little extra bit of blending with the deep shades, then I think you're actually going to really like this palette. This set I actually bought off of a mate of mine because she bought them, couldn't get on with them, and starting to sell them. You know, originally I wasn't going to buy these. I bought them because I had so many requests from all of you gorgeous 4F family out there that were saying, we really want to see. There's been so many differences of opinion even now on the palettes. Some people can get them to work, some people can't. I am by far from an expert. I am not a Tati, I am not a Nikki Tutorials. I'm what I would class as average to good when it comes to putting makeup on. You know, I'd give myself maybe a B minus, perhaps, whereas your Nickies and your Tatis are like your A stars. But I honestly feel that the looks that I create, because I don't use any filtering either on my photos or on my videos, what you see is what I see in the mirror. So I feel that the looks that I do are perfectly achievable by anyone if you've just got that little bit of patience to do the blending. Yeah. That being said, again, I quite like this. This is probably my third favourite palette from the set. Dark Magic is my favourite. This is my third favourite. You're going to have to see which order the other two fall in, but those of you who know me well can probably already guess. Right, that's enough from me for one day. I hope you enjoyed this and found it helpful. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could hit that like button, comment, share, subscribe. When you subscribe, don't forget to ring my bell, and choose all notifications, and so that you get told every time I upload another one of these videos. And talking of another one of these videos, I've got a lot to choose from. Have you seen them all? You sure you haven't missed one? Why not have a look back through some of my recent films and maybe some of my playlists and see if there's any videos that you have actually missed. And if you're an OG member of the 4F family and you've already watched, liked, commented, shared on all of my videos, then I'm sure the ladies from the Beauty YouTuber growth group, who are listed in my description box, will be delighted for you to come along and join their little families too. Right, as ever, all that remains for me to say is you'll stay fabulous now, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.